Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the April 12th, 2017 edition of The Breast There Is, The Breast There Was, and The Breast There Ever Will Be Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Mikey B, and this week's episode is entitled The Superstar ShakeUp. This title, of course, is in reference to last week on Monday Night Raw, when the chairman and CEO of the WWE, Vince McMahon, came down to the ring and stated that they need to shake things up around here, and declared that for this week's shows, there would indeed be a superstar shakeup. What this means is that we will have some performers switch rosters from Monday Night Raw to SmackDown Live and vice versa. Monday Night Raw opened with John Cena's entrance music, which was met with mixed reactions, but instead of John Cena coming out with his new fiancée Nikki Bella, The Miz and his wife Maryse came out dressed like them, as they have done in recent weeks. They proceeded to make fun of John Cena and Nikki Bella before being interrupted by Dean Ambrose. In a funny scene, Ambrose seemed to think that they were actually John Cena and Nikki Bella, as he congratulated them on their engagement and also on defeating The Miz and Maryse at WrestleMania, as he said that they're two of the most annoying people ever. The Miz and Maryse eventually stopped him and explained that they are not John Cena and Nikki Bella. Once that was made clear, Dean Ambrose then did his finishing move, Dirty Deeds, on The Miz. After this introduction, it became clear that these were the first three new performers on Monday Night Raw. The first match on Raw was a rematch from last week between tag team The New Day and the tag team which made their debut last week, The Revival. After losing last week, I was expecting The New Day to rebound with a victory, possibly setting up a third rubber match between the two teams. Instead, The Revival once again picked up the victory. I was confused by this outcome, but later realized that the creative team had other plans for The New Day, which I will explain later. Following this match, there was a backstage interview which involved WWE Cruiserweight Champion Neville, TJ Perkins, and Austin Aries. There's something which I have to get off my chest about these backstage interviews. They are absolutely horrible. And not just these three men which I mentioned, almost everybody is awful in the backstage interviews. And there's a perfectly good reason for this. It's because this extensive writing team working for the WWE writes scripts for the performers and expect the performers to follow it word for word. What winds up happening is that these performers don't usually memorize it all, and then you can see them hesitate and stare off at the cue cards, which are just out of the frame. It's bad, and it's very obvious when they do this. The WWE has money. Why don't they just rehearse it until it works, and they get a good take when the performers don't screw it up? I remember Stone Cold Steve Austin in his post-wrestling career once said that he hated how they make the wrestlers do the lines. He believes that a wrestler should just feed off of the negative things that their opponent says and respond accordingly. It's far more believable that way, and they often did this in the Attitude Era. To give you a current example, I love Kevin Owens and think that he's one of the top talents currently in this company. Kevin Owens cutting a promo in the ring is great. Kevin Owens cutting a promo backstage is weak. I'm not saying that backstage interviews should be cut out, but when they're done, they should be convincing and believable. Getting back to the show, this backstage interview, which riled me up so much, was setting up a match between Cruiserweights TJ Perkins and Austin Aries, which Perkins won after Neville distracted Aries during the match. Following the match, one thing worth noting is that it appeared that TJ Perkins might be switching to a heel character as he attacked Aries, who was already laying defenseless on the ring mat. Next up on the show was Seth Rollins coming down to the ring to discuss his future to resume the ongoing Superstar Shakeup story. Rollins was casting a doubt about his future on Raw, given his toxic relationship with Stephanie McMahon. Kurt Angle then visited the ring while Rollins was there and confirmed that he ultimately wants Rollins to stay, regardless of what Stephanie McMahon will do when she returns, because he believes in Seth's abilities. After Kurt left the ring, Samoa Joe attacked Rollins from behind, setting up a feud between these two. The next match on Raw featured a women's singles match between Charlotte and Nia Jax. Charlotte has arguably been the best women's performer in the WWE for the past year. The company has been pushing Nia Jax for a while without giving her any championship yet, so I was curious about which direction this match would go in. A bit of a surprise outcome as Nia Jax beat Charlotte clean, meaning without any interference or foul play. Charlotte doesn't lose too many matches one-on-one, so I didn't know what to make of this, until later, when I got my answer. The next fight was between the recently returned Finn Balor against Jinder Mahal. This match was obvious from the beginning as the company is starting to build Balor back up against a jobber in Jinder Mahal. A jobber, for those who don't know, is a wrestling term for a wrestler who is chosen to lose to people often. These jobbers won't usually amount to much success in their careers, unfortunately. This match was obvious, like I said, with Balor easily getting the victory. The interesting part came afterwards, when Balor was visited on the big screen by Bray Wyatt. Wyatt told the audience that he was now coming to Raw, and that he had his sights set on Balor when he was done with Orton. I like this upcoming feud, especially as I can imagine that Finn Balor will, at some point in his feud with Wyatt, change his character to the Demon King, which he utilizes from time to time. An interesting finish following a forgettable match. Sami Zayn then defeated The Miz in a match after Kurt Angle spontaneously made this match following some friction between the two backstage. The next segment on the show is surely the biggest incident of the night and will be the most talked about moment for a while on Raw. I can already imagine how many hundreds of times that they will replay this over the following weeks. That will be my cue to skip ahead 30 seconds each time. What I'm referring to, of course, is the Roman Reigns interview, which turned into a massacre by Braun Strowman. Strowman completely dismantled Reigns backstage and threw him into anything and everything. They even had a shot of Reigns tied on a stretcher before Strowman commandeered the stretcher and threw him and it off a huge platform where the equipment trucks were parked. I give credit to the WWE as they made the cut very quick so that it's difficult to see Strowman moving a stretcher with a dummy on it instead of Reigns. I myself even watched it a second time to see when they cut the film. Regardless, the WWE wants you to think that Roman was on that stretcher that flew off that platform, and to marvel at how strong he is that he survived it the next time we see him. It is worth noting that the WWE fans in attendance were chanting, "You deserve it," repeatedly after Reigns supposedly flew off the platform. That's what you want fans to chant for the new face of your company, right, WWE? Following this carnage backstage was an 8-man tag team match, which saw the Hardy Boys and Sheamus and Cesaro prevail over the Shining Stars and Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. Then the Superstar Shakeup continued as we saw Bayley and Sasha Banks get interrupted by new Raw superstars Alexa Bliss and then Mickie James. As Mickie James was making her way to the ring, she was attacked by Nia Jax, who then started beating up the other women in the ring, besides Alexa Bliss. It appears that these two are possibly in cahoots, at least for the time being. Besides the superstars which I've already noted who made the switch to Monday Night Raw, we also learned that non-main eventers, Kurt Hawkins, Apollo Crews, Kalisto, and the tag team of Heath Slater and Rhino will also be joining the roster. Don't be surprised if you go weeks or sometimes months without seeing some of these guys on the shows. And now this brings us to our main event of the night, which was a champion versus champion match. The newly acquired WWE Intercontinental Champion Dean Ambrose was set to face the U.S. Champion Kevin Owens. The match was a back-and-forth contest with Ambrose securing the victory. Following the match, Chris Jericho made an appearance and delivered a codebreaker move on Owens. The outcome for this match wasn't too surprising to me, as it would be a mistake to make new talent Dean Ambrose lose in his first match back on Raw, and I had a feeling that the WWE would definitely not want its two secondary champions on the same show. Which brings us to the next night on SmackDown Live, where more Superstar Shakeup will occur, and who opens the show? None other than our fallen champion from the previous night's main event, Kevin Owens. The freshly trimmed Owens instantly created heat with the Boston crowd by making fun of their hockey team and generally making fun of America as a whole. Soon after, he is interrupted by a few others, the first being Baron Corbin, followed by the next new addition to SmackDown Live, Owens' old nemesis, Sami Zayn, and then by the phenomenal AJ Styles. Each of the three men who interrupted Owens expressed why they feel that they deserve a title shot against Kevin Owens for his U.S. Championship. General Manager of SmackDown Live, Daniel Bryan, then came out and declared that those three men would compete in a triple threat match later on to see who would be the number one contender for the U.S. Championship. To confuse matters a bit, Kevin Owens is already scheduled to defend his title at the upcoming pay-per-view event Payback against Chris Jericho in a rematch from the bout at WrestleMania. The winner of this match then will bring the title to SmackDown Live. So what happens to Owens if he loses the title? Does he get to stay on SmackDown Live or go back to Raw? You can see how this was a bit unclear. The first match of the night was WWE Champion Randy Orton against currently the only other member of the Wyatt family, Eric Rowan. Not surprisingly, during the match, as Orton was about to deliver his finishing move, Bray Wyatt appeared on the screen issuing more warnings to Orton about their upcoming match. When the lights came back on, Rowan hit Orton with the ring steps, getting disqualified and resulting in Orton winning the match. The next match saw the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos, successfully defeat American Alpha. Following the match, the newest tag team acquired by SmackDown Live, the Shining Stars, then appeared and attacked American Alpha. Sadly, I doubt the Shining Stars will make much of an impact in the tag team division. Next up was Mojo Rawley against another new SmackDown Live competitor, Jinder Mahal. Remember how I said Jinder Mahal is a jobber? Well, he did his part again and lost in this match, which should have been reserved for a non-televised house show. The only good thing to come out of this match was that NFL player Rob Gronkowski, seated ringside, was about to exact a little revenge on Mahal by dumping a beer in his face, with the opposite happening at the end of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal in the WrestleMania 33 pre-show, which I never watched, because pay-per-views are too long, and pre-shows should not precede an obnoxiously long 5-hour wrestling event. Shane McMahon then came down to the ring to announce some changes in the SmackDown Live women's division. After bringing out the remaining women on the roster, Naomi, Natalya, Carmella, and Becky Lynch, Shane threw everybody a curveball by giving an introduction, which no doubt was for Charlotte. Instead, he announced that Superfly Jimmy Snuka's daughter, Tamina, was joining. As Shane faked leaving the ring, he then announced what he called the biggest SmackDown Live signing, which was Charlotte. And this is also why Charlotte lost fairly to Nia Jax the night before. She was leaving the show, so the best thing to do was to put someone else over, in this case Nia Jax, on her way out. Following this was a match with newcomer Ty Dillinger squaring off against Aiden English. No shocker here, as Ty Dillinger earned the victory as the company is slowly moving Ty Dillinger along. Next up, Dolph Ziggler was in the ring praising himself when the exciting Shinsuke Nakamura appeared and had a confrontation with Ziggler. When Dolph tried to surprise attack Nakamura, Shinsuke blocked the attack and shoved him away. After reading about Nakamura's decorated wrestling history, I'm very eager to see him in a match now. Other superstars who were mentioned who are now joining SmackDown Live are Sin Cara, Rusev with his wife Lana, as well as the tag team The New Day. Just like with Charlotte losing to Nia Jax, The New Day lost to The Revival 2 weeks in a row because they were on their way out and also to put over a young team before they left. The main event of the night was the triple threat match to determine the number one contender for the U.S. Championship. It was actually a very entertaining match, mainly because of AJ Styles and Sami Zayn. These two are excellent wrestlers, and I certainly hope we see these two clash more in the future. I was a little surprised that AJ Styles won, as he's been either holding or contending for the main WWE Championship for a good portion of the last year. And going for the secondary U.S. Championship now seems like a step in the wrong direction. I hope that he'll rejoin the main title picture soon enough. Some other important performers who have not been involved in the Superstar ShakeUp yet include John Cena and WWE Universal Champion Brock Lesnar. I'm not sure where Cena will go, but I'm hoping for Lesnar to bring his Universal Championship to SmackDown Live. This now brings us to the conclusion of our weekly program. Before I wrap things up, it has been just over a week since The Undertaker may have had his last match. I'm still clinging to hope that he has one more in him, but this seems less and less likely with each passing day. So, in honor of The Undertaker, I want to ask you listeners what you feel is his best match of his career. Was it the very first Hell in a Cell match against Shawn Michaels at Bad Blood 1997? The following year's far more gruesome Hell in a Cell match against Mankind at King of the Ring 1998? Or was it his World Heavyweight Championship match against Batista at WrestleMania 23? His match with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25, or his rematch with him at WrestleMania 26 in the Streak vs. Career match? Either WrestleMania match with his brother Kane? Or is it another match altogether which I haven't mentioned? There are a lot of classic Undertaker matches, so this is not an easy call. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Alright everyone, that about does it for this week's episode. Please don't hesitate to leave any questions or comments below, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you liked what you heard. Thanks very much for listening, and see you next time.